Hello, Maria Rios here, your friendly, frustrated filmmaker, and this is episode 2 of the Make the Movie Already podcast. The podcast for you otherwise busy creatives who can't seem to find the time to finish or start your passion project. Join me as I take a gentle but no excuses approach to increasing my productivity to get my project, my first documentary film, done. So here we go. Episode 2 will be dedicated to 2 topics, really. A kind of getting to know you piece that I will call full disclosure. I've had a chance to listen to last week's episode, and I feel like there's some things I need to clear up and some more things that need to know about me and the project. My film project, to be specific. And then the second part is actually getting started. So we'll be taking our first steps on our journey to being more productive and to getting our projects done at the end of the road, however long this takes and however long the road is. So we're actually like right here at the start line, and it's pretty exciting. I have butterflies. I'm nervous, but we'll keep going. So let's go ahead and start with that getting to know you, us, me, the full disclosure piece. I have to start by saying that after listening to the last episode, I felt like I really had to come clean about some things. Here's what I have to come clean about. So I don't think I made it clear that part of this journey for me is to learn by doing. Like I know myself. I tend to procrastinate. I have trouble making decisions sometimes. I know that at the end of the day or during times where I feel like I can work on my projects, I'm too tired to work on them. Like I don't have any bandwidth to really be creative, and it's I don't have a lot of experience like really pushing through on a daily, regular basis. So this podcast, as I mentioned, is an exercise really in getting outside of my comfort zone being those bad habits that have kept me non-productive. So I'm trying to X out the procrastination. I'm trying to X out the issues with decision making. I am trying to do things even if I feel tired or distracted. I'm trying to keep the time that I spend on this podcast to a minimum, because you've got to realize that I'm actually working on trying to get a film done, and so I need to pay some attention to that in addition to everything else that I need to do. So I wanted to kind of say that out loud because I don't think I was very specific about that, but because I am kind of limiting the time that I spend on things like procrastination, whatever other bad habits that I'm discovering are keeping me from being creative, this is even so hard to say that. I guess I really am a perfectionist. I'm releasing these episodes when they're less than perfect. I'm still learning about myself and my relation to this particular medium, the podcast. Last week's episode was interesting to me because number one, I think I managed to get what I needed to say out. But I didn't like the way that I said it. I don't feel like I was natural. I could think of 1,001 ways that it went wrong. I had trouble with some technical issues. So I'm kind of still learning as I go, but I couldn't do multiple takes. I didn't have time to do that. I have X amount of time to get this done, and I have to have something to show. And so that's the whole point of this. And while I'm working on having something to show and something for you to hear, I will improve as I go along. And by improve, what I mean is putting my best foot forward with the production of this podcast. So in the back of my mind, I worry about what I may not be able to control, which could be background noise, my delivery. I know that my pronunciation can be a little difficult sometimes, or my natural cadence. There'll be technical glitches. I've already heard some of these when it comes to the audio, and I'm a little frustrated by them, but I've got to keep moving. And so I'll improve. So yeah, you may hear the neighbor's jackhammer. I can't believe you didn't hear that today. You might hear the laundry going. You might hear my dog or my husband calling me to dinner. You are forewarned, and I ask forgiveness and grace in advance. Please know that I'll do the best that I can. All right. Enough of the full disclosure. I probably have more to disclose, but we'll go ahead and leave that for now. I think I've said what I've needed to say there. Let's get to the getting started piece. Before diving in, I'd like to mention a couple of resources, a couple of books actually, that have been really helpful to me. Let me tell you what these books are. You know, this is the recommended reading part of the show. So the first is Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. And I will tell you now, I'm going to go ahead and read from their flap. Designers don't think their way forward, say Burnett and Evans in Designing Your Life. Designers build their way forward. Rather than dreaming up a lot of fun fantasies that have no relationship to the real world or the real you, they show us how to build a future brick by brick, how to approach our own life design challenges with the same kind of curiosity and creativity that resulted in the creation of the light bulb, the printing press, and the internet, as they give us the tools and show us certain simple mindsets and how to use them to practice life design in your life. A sampling of the mindsets of life design. Curiosity, bias to action, meaning being committed to building your way forward, not sitting on the bench thinking about what you are going to do with the rest of your life. Designers try things, test things out, create prototype after prototype until they find what works. Important. So there's a lot here. And, I started reading this book actually maybe a couple of years ago, like right during the pandemic. I was actually introduced to the concept of design thinking by someone who used it in their work at IBM. And what I remember about it, and it's a process used when you have to innovate, when you have to work in groups, when you have to solve problems as part of your work, when you have to create something as part of your work, be it a product or solve a problem or make something more usable. And I thought, well, as applied to thinking about organizing your life and finding ways to get unstuck, you can use some of these techniques to kind of get yourself out of a creative box. And so I highly recommend the book. The second book I recommend actually is The Bullet Journal Method, Track the Past, Order the Present, Design the Future by Ryder Carroll. I think what's appealing about this is, and this is from the back cover, I wrote this book for frustrated list makers, overwhelmed multitaskers, and creatives who need some structure. Whether you've used a bullet journal for years or have never seen one, the bullet journal method will help you go from passenger to pilot of your own life. I had a coworker introduce her bullet journal to me. We were talking about, ways to kind of lessen the overwhelm during a particularly heady time at work. And I wasn't ready to hear it because she said, well, it requires these particular tools and it's this particular method. And then there's a book that, would be helpful to read, and that's it. My brain stopped there. It said, I'm already overwhelmed. I got all this stuff to do and I'm feeling frustrated. I'm looking forward to the day where I say that word less. And hopefully that's coming sooner rather than later, and I think it will. So, but anyway, I was overwhelmed, and I didn't see how learning a new journaling method that seemed complicated, I didn't see how it would help me. I do now. I don't know, maybe a couple of years later, maybe a year later, I've re-encountered this method. It was at a time where I was ready to make some think and I understood that whatever I had been doing until now wasn't working for me. So I said, I think I need to make, some radical change. So here, let me learn, something new. Let me, kind of take a minute to breathe and check this out. And sure enough, it's actually a simple process. In a nutshell, it's really the cross between a list, a set of lists for everything that you do organized across a calendar, monthly, daily, that you handwrite and you incorporate an aspect of journaling to it. Taking time, as the book recommends, to reflect on what you did or didn't get done, some of your pain points, maybe write down some ways you can realistically handle them moving forward. If, say, you didn't have quite a successful week and you didn't get done what you wanted to do, I think that's important because it keeps you moving forward. What I find it particularly helpful for is uncluttering the mind. Like, often as busy people, and if we're creatively inclined, we may get a little stymied because we just have so much in our brains. Like, we've got kids or parents to take care of, or our professional lives. We've got, a ton of things to do at work, and multiple multi-step complex projects, and we need to keep birthdays straight and still find time to take care of ourselves and be human. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. And in the ebb and flow of the stress of it, it's helpful to have all the lists in one place, see how everything works together, and, use that knowledge that you have maybe to drop some things that you don't know that you need to drop. Each day isn't infinity, right? So we've got time limitations, and it's important for us to figure out what our priorities are. Being able to get that 1,000 foot level view of what you're doing, how you're doing it, in a simple and comprehensive way, and using this journal to take the time to kind of reflect. I think it's perfect. I think it's a very useful way to help otherwise, preoccupied creatives such as ourselves get our projects done. So I highly recommend the bullet journal method. It's pen and paper. You can make the bullet journal as fancy or as simple as you want. I think it's worth the effort. Maybe this is time for the second full disclosure moment. But I'll be starting fresh with my bullet journal. I really do think I need it now. I've been talking about it at work. I've been, telling my team members I'm going to start this up again because I feel like I really need it, because I feel like I have a lot going on and I really want to be present, and there's a lot of change going on at work, and I want to make sure that I keep track of everything. So I'm looking forward to putting all of my lists together. There is one last book that I'd like to recommend, and it's usually on my desk. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, found it. Wasn't exactly on my desk, but How to Become a Straight A Student: The Unconventional Strategies Real College Students Use to Score High While Studying Less. So as you can tell, I've spent some time doing a little bit of research to try and find productivity methods that would work for me in my particular goals. And so what I like about this book is that, as it says in the back cover, it promotes study smarter, not harder. If you remember, anything about being a student, it's an all-encompassing experience. And as you'll recall, I've been taking filmmaking classes since 2017. And I wanted to become more efficient. The author, Cal Newport, who himself graduated from Dartmouth College and earned a PhD from MIT and is the founder of Study Hacks, the web's most popular student advice blog, by using case studies of people who go to the Ivy League. And we know that these Ivy League kids are highly productive and they're trying to have a life outside of school and get the internships or whatever. This author makes it important to mention that it's necessary to have an outside life and build the stuff that's important to you. Build the fun into your schedule. This will make you a more productive person. This will make you a happier person. This will be helpful to you. All right. So now that I've given you some recommended readings, let's get started. How exciting. We're about to take our first steps towards getting our creative projects done. So what's our first step going to be? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an assessment. Specifically, we are going to assess how we're spending our time. It's pretty simple to do. What I recommend is that you take an accounting of your time on a weekly calendar template or on a spreadsheet, or, you can draw it out on graph paper, but get to a point where you understand how you're spending your time every day. This is including sleeping, include your meals, include outings or, the fun stuff, include everything that you do, work, commutes, everything. So if you've already been working on your creative projects and are feeling overwhelmed and time is the cause, include that. If you're starting from scratch, it doesn't matter, include everything. The point of this is for you to just get a clear and accurate picture of how you're spending your time every day. And doing a very detailed kind of weekly snapshot will be very helpful. The second thing is, I would put this under assessment, but it's getting a list together of all the things that you're doing and include all the things that you'd like to do. So yes, there is a certain amount of repetition here. What I'm asking you to do when it comes to listing everything that you are doing and what you want to do is, at the end of the day, for that list and your calendar to be able to match up in a reasonable way. And you will get points off if you don't include self-care. So you're going to have to include that in somehow. Highly recommend it at this stage. Self-care could be getting enough sleep, eating healthy meals, or eating meals regularly. Actually, as busy people, we tend to forget, so it's critical that we maintain our brain power. So starting to earmark time to dedicate ourselves to either reinforcing or starting healthy habits will be critical, right? The whole goal of this podcast is productivity, but not productivity at any cost. We're busy people, right? We're feeling stymied, we're feeling stuck, and we've tried everything, or we think we have. That's the kicker, So the question of how exactly are we using our time is quite valid. Being able to see exactly how we're using our time is necessary, and including how we would like to use our time is critical. Because again, as I've mentioned, how we would like to use our time has to do perhaps with our creative project, right? So we're going to have to find a way to fit everything in. So that's step one, the time assessment. So get to it. There's no time like the present, right? Okay, I'm being obnoxious. All right. Now, I'm a little bit ahead of the game here, obviously. So I've taken the appropriate steps and I've done the appropriate assessments to figure out that this podcast, what I'm doing now, is a feasible part of my productivity plan to get my own film started. What I'll be doing is actually getting started with my bullet journal. You are welcome to do that, but if you don't know anything about doing a bullet journal, I've recommended the book, but also look it up online. There's lots of good videos. It's actually really easy to do once you get used to it. Takes a little bit of learning, but I do recommend the bullet journal. You don't have to do it. I do recommend it. I know everyone's busy. So our first step again is to assess our time, and to do it in 2 ways. We're going to create some sort of a graph or visual representation of our time that is as accurate as we can make it, that includes meals and sleep and everything that we do. And then the second piece is we are listing out everything that we do plus everything that we would like to do. 2-part assessment. All right. Okay, folks, we have an assignment now. We're on our way, so I think it's a good time to end. But before we close, I'd like to take you back to earlier in this episode, the full disclosure part, where I outed myself as a procrastinator. It dawns on me now, as we're embarking on assessing our time, that I don't have a complete handle on precisely how I'm procrastinating. I have a feeling it could look well-intentioned, like, say, a task that's part of my project, but actually isn't, or could be the potential rabbit hole of research, or maybe leaving myself up or open rather to too many related kind of side projects. Could be a lot of stuff. Anyway, I'm mentioning this because what I crave most, and one of the fundamental reasons I'm doing this podcast and creative work in general, is I'd like to make my creative life a habit. I want it to be an integral part of my whole life that gets expressed every day, every week, more regularly as feasible. And to do this, I'm looking at some serious behavioral changes and also changing my mindset. Not the easiest things in the world to do, but very necessary, and I'm on the road, and if you're joining me, so are you, if we have the same goal. So with that, I'm wondering if this episode has inspired epiphanies for you. If so, write them down, save them for me. I'd love your feedback, but I don't have my socials up yet this week. They're coming soon now. So, all right, folks, take care. Do your time assessments. I'll see you next week for episode 3 at, when I drop them, or you will know, trust me, 7:30 a.m. on Mondays. 7:30 a.m. on Mondays. So until then, stay creative. Again, take care, and bye-bye.